Hi, this is Speakerstack Music, and in this video I'm going to show you how I've created a Phasing LFO synth in Serum 2 using the core functionality of the Serum 2 synthesizer, so not using any of the presets that you'd normally scroll through when you're kind of looking for a synth sound to drop into one of your tracks. I'm going to give you a quick blast of what it sounds like, then I'm going to talk you through how I've set the synth up so you can take that away and use it yourself, or use it as a starting point to kind of create your own ideas or play around with what we've created. So here we go. I'm going to give you a quick blast of the synth sounds. Remember, it's a Phasing LFO synth, so you can have a lot of phase in there and a bit of LFO kind of ringing out the sound, repeating it over and over again. Okay, cool. So I really like that synth, and I'm going to show you how I've created it. So what we've got is the Serum 2 open here. Ableton running's behind the scenes, but there's nothing going on in Ableton here. It's purely all the Serum 2 synth. No preset is selected at the top. We're going straight into the wavetable section. So clicking on the oscillator section up here, we've just got oscillator A in operation. Nothing on oscillator B or C, nothing in the sub and nothing in the noise. In oscillator A, we've got it set to the wavetable setting. If you click on that, you can see you've got a selection there. We've got it on wavetable. And in the sound that we've selected, we've got Matrixy C64. That is an analog sound about halfway down the drop-down menu there. Okay, moving on. The octave is set to -1. None of these parameters have been changed. The wavetable position is at 37. The phase is at 104 and the rand is at 0. Unison is set to 8, so we do have a kind of multiple voices choral effect going on in the sound to create a bit of that phasing sound. And we've also got the detune set to 0.06, so it's slightly detuning those voices, creating kind of a thickened sound. The blend is at 28, and the level and the pan haven't been changed. So those are the kind of the default settings that drop in when you drop the when you kind of arm the wavetables synthesizer. Nothing, as I said, in B or C, nothing in the noise. That oscillator A is being fed into filter 1 up here, which you can see is armed and is highlighted in blue. And we've got some parameters here going on. We've got the cutoff set to 75 Hertz. We've got the resolution set to 46 to sharpen the sound a bit. Bit of drive on it just to give it a bit of edge, bit of grit. If I just hover that over again, that's set to 14%, and we've fattened the sound up at around 53%. Now you'll see that there's this little thing hovering over the cutoff parameter here, and there's a section highlighted in blue. That's because we've got these two things down here, the envelope filter and the LFO filter, both feeding through into the cutoff to influence how that parameter processes the sound that's running through it. And you do that, you can tell they're actually armed on that cutoff by, if you click away from them, you'll see that the blue section disappears. Click back on it, the blue comes back. See, that's how you can tell that it's armed. So we've got the envelope filter here influencing the cutoff parameter that's applied when the sound runs through it. And in the envelope window here, you can see the shape, the envelope filter shape that we've applied. We've got the following parameters. In the attack parameter, we've got 35 milliseconds. So a little bit of kind of, well, I suppose rolling back the attack sound ever so slightly, so it's not just kicking in full force on the attack. On the hold, we've got a 295 milliseconds. So as you can see, you can probably tell from the picture, there's not a lot of hold on this note. So it kind of plays the note and then rolls straight off into that kind of decay, sustain and release phase. That's on purpose. I wanted something that was quite sharp and staccato, but then kind of faded away. On the decay, we've got that set at 1.51 seconds. The sustain, which is this bit around here, it's the height of this section here. The more this is kind of up here, the higher the sustain. The more it's down here, the lower. So I wanted a bit of sustain, but I want it to kind of roll off as well. That is set to minus 11.3 decibels. And then in the release, which is kind of going out of the window a little bit there, but you can just see it there. That's at about 1.93, I think was the parameter. 1.94 seconds release. So it does kind of allow a little bit of time for that LFO to ring out. And as I said, and the way to influence the cutoff parameter is you click on this and then drag it across onto that window. So you've got this envelope shape applied to that cutoff and the sound that's going through it. We've also got LFO1 doing exactly the same thing. So again, that is armed, and again, you click on that, you drag it across to the cutoff, and that essentially applies the LFO again to that cutoff parameter in the filter. We've got the LFO set to saw down curved, and you can access that again just by flicking through these presets here, like that. It's not the saw down like that, but just the one next to it to the left, saw down curved. We've got the rate at 1/4. Nothing's been changed here. Down here, you'll see in the voicing section, we've got it set to polysynth, so you can play multiple notes at the same time. It's not a monosynth, it's a polysynth. And then, as I said, up in the filter, we've got the cutoff, the resolution, the drive, and the fat, which I've just gone through. The other filter, filter 2, is not armed, so it's just filter 1 that's armed, because we've only got one oscillator in play. If I had oscillator B and C, I might have one of them going into the second filter and doing something else. That is everything on the oscillator section. Finally, we're going to have a look at the FX. So if you click through on the FX section, you'll see we've got 3 effects in play. You access them by clicking on this button here, selecting the effect, it automatically drops in. We've got some chorus, some delay, and some EQ. So the chorus is there just to thicken and soften the sound, again just to help with that kind of phasing effect. We've got the chorus set at 53% in the mix. I don't think that's changed. I think that's at 1000 Hertz. We've got the feedback set at 46%. The depth is at 26 milliseconds. I think the depth is right up. Yeah, it is. Nothing on delay 2. On delay 1, we've got it set at 5 milliseconds. And we've got the rate at 0.00 Hertz. And again, I don't think anything's been changed on that part. Then on the delay, there are 3 parameters you could pick. And you can scroll through them on this section here. Normal, ping pong, and tap delay. We've gone for normal setting here, so we don't have the sound ping ponging around. We've got the left and right delay set to 1/4. The feedback set to 49, practically 50%. Nothing changed here in the EQ or frequency section. And we've got that at 13% in the mix. And then finally, onto the EQ, the equalizer. We've just applied a bit of a high cut here to the top end of the sound. So you can essentially achieve that by clicking on that and then selecting the I suppose it will be a low pass high cut here, and you can alter the kind of frequency at which that's applied, and we've got it kind of happening at around 6,374 Hertz. That's quite high in the frequency spectrum, and you'll see I've taken nothing off the low end. Again, I just wanted the fullness of the sound to come through in Serum, and then if I was going to then EQ it and process it more, I would do that in Ableton as part of the broader selection of sounds that I would have in the song that I was using this in. So I wanted to see how it kind of fitted into the rest of the sounds before I adjusted the EQ anymore. But I've just taken some of that kind of high-end hiss and air and space off it up there by applying the frequency at that parameter here. None of these have been changed. And that is the EQ. And that really completes everything that I've applied to create this Phasing LFO Synth. So I hope you found that helpful and useful. As I said, you can take that away, create it for yourself, put it in your own tracks, or use it as a starting point, a basis to kind of play around and start to create your own synth sounds. If I was going to do anything around kind of expanding this sound, you might want to put something here and turn the sub on and get some kind of underlying sub kind of note or sound underneath to underpin it and thicken it. Or you could drop in other sounds into oscillator B and C. If you're going to do that, obviously don't forget to include them in the filter here by clicking on the B and C sections here. Or if you wanted to do something entirely different to them than what was happening in filter 1, you could have them going through to filter 2, in which case you could click them here and they would then, and then you could alter the parameters here for filter 2, and obviously you'd need to arm it at the top as well there. So let's click back on filter 1. Great, so that's everything. So yeah, I hope you found that helpful. Please consider subscribing. We're a small channel trying to build it, and we're going to be dropping more of these videos. So if you like this and you want more of this content, please consider subscribing. And if you found this video helpful in any way, give it a like. It just helps and push it out to more people. So just to say thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.